Mario, how you doing?
Hey, John. Good hearing from you.
I just was wondering, from the moment that this fight has been made to now, what's been going through your head? I mean, has it been like a dream? Has it sunk in that you're actually fighting for a title?
Yeah, it's definitely sunk in. I mean, which is why we really made sure we've done everything this training camp in preparation for this fight. I'm well aware of the opportunity I'm facing. I'm well aware of the guy I'm going to be facing come fight night, and so I mean, if anything, it's been a lot of motivation. It hasn't been no pressure whatsoever. I mean, I promised San Antonio a world title a long time ago, and I mean, that opportunity is now in front of me, and I mean, nothing is going to get in the way of that.
You expect nerves to be a problem. You've been on some big cards and some big venues. Are you doing anything special to battle the nerves, or do you expect that to be a problem come fight night?
I don't feel no nerves going into this fight. I've competed, on some of the biggest fight cards, with PBC. This is my third time returning to the Staples Center. It's always, it's always a great turnout there, especially, with the Mexican American fans and just boxing fans in general. And, I'm looking forward, to being a very packed night there. But, I mean, no nerves going into this fight. I mean, nothing's going to stop me, from going into the fight and dominating the way that we've been preparing.
Well, one more thing. What would winning this title mean to you and to join that select group of San Antonio world champions?
Man, it's one of the biggest, I think, accomplishments and biggest honors, for me. Like I said, taking a world title back to San Antonio, being, I think, only the fifth person, in San Antonio history that's been able to do that. And I mean, yeah, so it's gonna be an indescribable feeling. But the first things first, I have to go out there and take care of business next Saturday.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Our next question comes from Jeremy with Fansided.com. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mario. Thanks for taking the time to talk. Obviously, being in the super lightweight division, it's loaded with talent, whether you're talking Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor, Prograis, and the list goes on. For maybe some of the people that aren't familiar with you, what do you think stands out about your style of fighting? What do you think you bring to the table that's going to catch people's eye?
Jeremy, I think, I mean, not being full of myself, but I think I could call myself, an all-around fighter. And then, I mean, given my size in this division, I'm, one of the biggest probably currently. And, I mean, I use my size to my advantage. I can box very well on the outside. I work well off my jab. But, also, growing up, in Texas and having, a good amateur background as well. I mean, growing up, I really learned how to fight on the inside, just very, very, I guess you would say Mexican style, where I would brawl, so I'm able to box and brawl, when people ask me about my style, I tell them I'm a boxer puncher. I mean, because, I'm not just a power puncher, my last 8 fights have been stoppages, but, it's not like I'm just going out there and just winging shots and just, catching, lucky shots. Every fighter that I've stopped, they've been stopped in, different ways, with different punches. So, I think, this fight is going to continue, to show the boxing fans, about my presence, in my division and just, in the sport alone.
You talked about your size. I mean, you are large for the division. Akhmedov is obviously several inches smaller. You're going to have height on him. You're going to have reach. Do you find that those measurables make a difference when you're in fight? Do you feel an advantage when you have a height advantage or a length advantage? I know some people say that they don't feel one. Do you feel more empowered having a size advantage?
Actually, I would always, prefer fighting somebody, that was closer to my height. A lot of times, when I was early in my pro career, I would fight some guys that were like, they were real short, almost too short, and that actually presents a lot of trouble a lot of times. But I mean, Akhmedov, he's a good height, he's not too short, not too tall. So I mean, whether I'm fighting on the outside or or whether it becomes a very busy inside fight, I'm ready for either one of those.
Great, thank you very much, and best of luck to you.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Our next question comes from John Cutney with Reddit Boxing. Please go ahead.
Hi, Mario. So, as you've already discussed, you're on a great knockout streak. I know. I'll just say, early in your career, when I saw some of your early fights when you were very young, I didn't know what to make of you. But again, you're on the safe fight knockout streak. You really seem to gather a lot of momentum. I'm just wondering if you can talk about what the last few years of your career have been like, if it was just a maturation process, if everything has sort of started to click in your style, or, you did just need a certain amount of time to develop in your career.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination, of everything. I mean, of course, when I first started, I was 18 years old when I turned pro, and I turned pro at 124. So, I was very new. I was just, most of my fights, just going out there, just, depending on, my length and power, to stop fighters. Where, as opposed to now, I really, especially under the guidance of Virgil Hunter, I really, gained an insight, to all of the little things that matter in this sport, which, I mean, when I started working with Virgil about 3 or 4 years ago, it really showed me a lot, because he was able to take me to that, to that next level, that world championship stage, which is where we're at. So, I mean, I think just time, now, being with Virgil and, I mean, just, maturing overall has been, the biggest factors for me.
Okay, so one more question. So your opponent, Akhmedov, is only 7-0. And over the last, 10 or 15 years ago, that might have seemed crazy for him to be fighting for a title. But over the last few years, we've seen a rise of Eastern European fighters, some of whom come in guns blazes early in their career, like Lomachenko, fight for a title early on and have some success. Other fighters, not so much. So just wondering if you can give your assessment of Akhmedov, in general, and, being, again, an Eastern European fighter with relatively so few fights.
Yeah, Akhmedov, he has an impressive amateur resume. He has the experience coming in with him. But, for, one of the first times going into a fight, I'm actually, the veteran. So, I mean, of course, the pros and amateurs, they're two different ball games. And come fight night, I'm going to use everything that I've learned in my past 24 fights. And I'm going to put everything to use. Again, I mean, I'm not saying I'm overlooking Akhmedov. I'm expecting, the best version of him, that has possibly ever showed up. But, I mean, like I said, I've had a great camp. I know I'm ready, given any kind of fight that he wants.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good luck with your remaining preparations. Good luck next Saturday.
Appreciate it, John.
Our next question comes from John Whistler with San Antonio and Express News. Please go ahead.
Hey, Mario, it's John again. Have you, by any chance, I know you said you had kind of a relationship with John Michael Johnson. Has he talked to you about fighting for a world title? Have you talked to him lately at all?
No, I haven't spoke to him in a while. I mean, just, aside from, little comments that, that he will post, on anything I post. But, he gets his support, which, means a lot, especially coming from, just, my hometown.
All right, is your family going to be out there? Will Selena be out there? I imagine they will be.
Yeah, everybody, all my family, my sisters, my parents, they're all going to be there, and then, even, just a lot of friends and family, they're flying in for the fight.
About how many do you expect?
There's quite a bit. It's hard to even say.
Well, with Akhmedov being 7-0, and there's been some people maybe questioning the legitimacy of this title. The WBA gives out like 3 titles per division. Does that bother you at all that people say that maybe this isn't that legitimate?
No, I mean it doesn't bother me at all. I know my placement, in my division, and I know this fight, it is a world title, and it's just gonna, propel me, even closer, to fighting, their current champions.
Has this been your goal, your dream? Since when did you start fighting as an amateur?
I started boxing when I was 6 years old. As soon as I turned 8, I started competing. So, I mean, it's always been a dream, but now that I'm here, it feels surreal. But again, I'm going to take this opportunity. Like I said, there's nothing that's going to get in the way of me in this world title.
That surreal feeling will probably dissipate once you get hit a week from Saturday.
Yeah, no, I mean, of course, no doubt.
Once you get punched in the nose, everything goes out the window then.
Yeah, pretty much. And that's when all the work falls into place.
Yeah. Thanks, Mario. Good luck to you.
Thanks.
Our next question comes from Carlos Toro of Fightful News. Please go ahead.
Hey, Mario, thanks so much for being on this call. You've mentioned in the past, that there would probably come a point where you might have to think about moving up to 147 pounds, but that time hasn't arrived yet. And I wanted to ask, is this fight being for the WBA title, was that sort of, incentive for you to try and stay at 140 pounds a little longer, or was that not always the plan to stay at 140 pounds through the rest of the year?
That was my plan originally, with the move up, to try to dominate and to try to fight for as many of the world titles, as I possibly could. Right now I'm still making the weight comfortably. That goal, is gonna remain the same. There's no doubt, I'm gonna move up to welterweight eventually, but that time it isn't now.
In this very loaded division that has, as it was mentioned, Regis Prograis, Jose Ramirez, Josh Taylor, do you look at this fight and the platform that you're on, being on pay-per-view on such a big event, as sort of a statement fight to those aforementioned champions and saying that you've arrived and you have your case being made for being one of the best junior welterweights in the world?
That's exactly how I look at it. Winning this fight. I feel I've really proven myself. My past few fights, but this one for sure. It's gonna put all of the world champions on notice. That I'm right there. I'm right there knocking on the door. To be fighting them next.
Thanks, Mario. Best of luck on September 28th.
Thank you.
Our next question comes from Cameron Buford with the LA News Observer. Please go ahead.
Hey, Mario, this is Cameron Buford. How you doing, big guy?
I'm doing good. How are you, Cameron?
Oh, I'm well, sir. You touched on it a little while ago. We talked about it personally, but I want you to explain to the rest of the writers here what this Mexican-style boxing means to you, and how does it influence your style, your boxing style, in the job you put on for the fans?
Yeah, I feel everyone's general description of Mexican style, is sitting there, and pretty much just brawling. Of course, the body punches as well, and just being able to mix it up, and to keep that pressure, and there's no doubt that I possess those abilities as well as being a boxer. So given even the fight day close to Mexican Independence Day, which is actually was which is actually today. I mean, so it's very close, and yeah, I mean, I'm excited, to go out there and put on, for my people, for my city, and just the boxing fans in general.
Okay, thank you. And considering your opponent, what are you looking for to capitalize against this guy come fight night?
Like I mentioned, he has a great amateur pedigree. So I mean, he has that experience, but he doesn't really have that experience in the pros. So given which Akhmedov shows up, how he chooses to fight, I know that I'll be able to adjust and use all of the tools that I've learned in my past 24 fights against him.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And Mario, before we go ahead and get ready to let you go, we know you're very excited for your matchup against Akhmedov on September 28th. It is a big night of action from Staples Center live on pay-per-view. Final comments, Mario, as you get set for your matchup.
Not much. I mean, I appreciate, y'all having me. I appreciate the media, all tuning in, asking their questions. And, and thank you, to all the fans and supporters.